These disturbing stories of real demons and possessions absolutely terrified the Pope, as it did many others as well, starting with the devil and Father Amorth, witnessing the Vatican exorcist at work through the possession of Rosa and the demons that consumed her. Now, on Father Amorth's 91st birthday, he had no plans to celebrate it, and he awoke just after dawn, said his typical morning prayers, and had his very typical breakfast of a cafe latte and biscotti. When he returned to his room, he tended to all the mail he had of people requesting his services from around the world. Each letter contained tragic questions and appeals from people who knew Amorth only by name and reputation. He answered the letters, writing with, a fountain pen, licking the envelopes and stamps himself. Now at 2 p.m., he knelt again to pray, then arose with difficulty, took up his walking aid, and made his way to an elevator, which took him to the first floor, where the small room dedicated to his work was located. The hallway was empty and dark, whispering voices and footsteps could be heard as from a tomb. At exactly 3 p.m., he began to conduct the ritual of exorcism. Now, the possessed woman Rosa was in her late 30s, tall and slender with raven black hair. Now, this was her 9th exorcism with Father Amorth. As with traditional psychiatry, the patient is usually not, secured after the first session. Now, Rosa arrived with her mother and father and her boyfriend, Giuliano. Now, her parents were in their late 50s, and one day Roberto saw her on the floor, convulsively twisting her body and kind of growling like a wolf. When this continued for several days, Roberto took her to a psychiatrist, who then was unable to help her and suggested she see Father Amorth. She required 4 exorcisms before she was even healed. It was Roberto who noticed Rosa at mass acting disturbed and disoriented the way his sister had. He brought her to Father, and in August of 2015, Rosa had no apparent medical symptoms. It was Father Amorth's belief that her affliction stemmed from a curse brought against her by her brother's girlfriend, who was said to be a witch. Now, the brother and his girlfriend were members of a powerful demonic cult. Father Amorth believed that. Now, he invited everyone to join him in saying the Lord's Prayer and Hail Mary, and Rosa's head began to nod involuntarily. Her eyes rolled back as she fell into a very deep trance. Father Amorth spoke in Latin in a very loud, clear voice, using, the Roman ritual of Paul V from 1614. He asked the Lord to set her free from demonic infestation. Rosa's body began to throb, and she cried out before falling back into a trance. Father Amorth placed his right hand over her heart, and without warning, Rosa began to thrash violently. The 5 male helpers that were there had all they could do was hold her down, and basically foam started forming at her lips. Now, after several minutes in chantings, Rosa slowly awoke and sat up. She was kind of disheveled and had no memory at all of what had happened. This story was so scary and so well documented, it scared even the Pope. And this next demon is said to have absolutely terrified the Pope, and it goes by the name of Behemoth. Now, this demon preys on your deepest cravings, the embodiment of just gluttony and indulgence. Now, it's a symbol of unrestrained excess. Now, Behemoth is a mythological beast mentioned in Job 40:15-24. Metaphorically, the name has come to be used for any extremely large or powerful entity. Now, in medieval demonology, Behemoth is the nocturnal demon of indulgence and holds the ranks of caretaker of wine cellars, grand cupbearer of the royal household, and right watchman. Now, he oversees the feasts of Jinistan and is responsible for serving the devil his food and wine. He also entertains with song and music. Now, described as a monstrous elephant with feet like a bear, he can also appear like a crocodile, hippopotamus, as well as a whale. Now, he is fairly stupid, and his only concern really is eating, but legend tells us that he was originally created by God to help stabilize the world, resting it on his back as, he floated in the water, surrounded by cosmic darkness. Now, related to Leviathan, when Behemoth is dealing with humans, he creates chaos in their lives. He can shape change into a cat, a dog, a fox, even a wolf. Given that it embodies the land and all of its inhabitants, the Behemoth, wields total control over the animals of the earth. The Behemoth would release a loud roar that can be heard for miles and makes all animals tremble with fear, and thus renders them less ferocious for, almost a whole year. Now, as a result, weak animals live in safety away from the reach of wild animals. Now, the book of Job explains that without the Behemoth's roar, animals would grow more wild and ferocious and hence go around hurting each other and humans, though when it was unleashed, it can change the frequency of its roar, thus its command, and would have the animals run rampant nonetheless. And according to Jewish tradition, only the creator of a behemoth can destroy it. So in this case, only Jehovah can destroy Behemoth. On the day of judgment, he will be, slain by a whale, and his body will provide the feast for the celebration of final days, and the Lord will distribute the meat to his followers. This entity is often called upon during exorcism and cases of collective possession. He was one of the 18 demons who possessed Sister Jeanne d'Agnes in Lodon, France in 1634. This demon was said to terrify the Pope so much, and I can honestly certainly understand why. Next, we have the exorcism of Anneliese Michel and the demon that took over her. Now, the exorcism of Anneliese Michel refers to a highly publicized case in 1975 to 1976 where a young German woman, Anneliese Michel, underwent numerous exorcisms. Now, the case gained significant media attention and was later the inspiration for the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose. These demons absolutely terrified the Pope, and I couldn't agree more because this story terrified me too. Lastly, we have the demon who took the life of a nun. Irina Maricica Cornici passed away at the Holy Trinity Convent in the village of Tanacu after she was tied up for several days without food or water and chained to a cross during the ritual. Exhuming the body was requested by Daniel Prechu Cornigo, a monk who served as the Covenant's priest and who has been charged with unaliving her in a bid to prove his innocence. That monk, who led the exorcism, and 4 nuns were charged with assassination and denying a person's freedom. Cornigo said he performed the ritual at the request of her brother, who was unhappy with, the doctor's failure to cure his sister from her mental problems. Weeks before her demise, Cornici had been treated in the hospital for schizophrenia. The case has stunned, this impoverished nation where rural youths, many raised in orphanages like Cornici, had flocked to Orthodox monasteries and convents for spiritual help or food or even just shelter. Now, polls show the Orthodox Church to be the nation's most trusted institution, and one of a doctors there, Dr. Georgi Silverstoshi, a psychiatrist who treated her, said she thought the devil was talking to her and told her that she was a sinful person. Now, Cornigu told the media he was trying to take demons out of the nun. He said she had to be restrained because she was violent and that she refused to drink holy water. Her aunt said she was a good girl, and what was done to her was just way too cruel. This story really scared the Pope, who believed it was actually demons, but were the demons in Cornici or the monk or the nuns who assumed so and performed this exorcism? The Pope wasn't too sure and was too terrified to talk about it further. But which one of these stories made you as terrified as the Pope? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host Ashley. Until next time, stay scared.